Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
You are listening to the Brilliance Business Show. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. Conversations with leading experts in business. And today I have the most incredible guest, Douglas Vermeeren. Douglas is a personal development filmmaker, and our topic today is how thoughts become things. Douglas, welcome to the Brilliance Business Show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward to a conversation with you today, Douglas. Before I get started, I just need to make a legal disclaimer that Douglas is not offering legal advice or legal assistance. So let's get started with the show. Douglas,
wonderful.
Can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. I guess long and short, I started when I was about 19-year-old conducting interviews with some of the world's top achievers, people who'd achieved big things in business, finance, also in entertainment and athletics and so forth, really kind of as a result of what I saw Napoleon Hill do when he wrote Think and Grow Rich. And so that was kind of the essence in the beginning of sort of how I learned what I learned. And from there, obviously people started inviting me to speak about these things. Like, so for example, what did you learn from, Richard Branson, or what did you learn from, some of the bigger names in business and entertainment and so forth. And so with that, I developed a handful of commonalities, some things that I saw that were always consistently practiced by these 400 of the world's top achievers. And that really became the essence of a series of seminars that I've taught, as well as the films that we've created. And we've had a lot of success with the students that we've shared this with. So it's been exciting. It's been a great journey.
I absolutely love your work. I am fairly new to your work, Douglas, and I watched your movie, The Opus. And it really did make me feel uplifted, and it just really reminded me of all the reasons why it's so important to enjoy life, go after your dreams, and really what you think about does create your reality. So I would like to talk a little bit about the Opus first, if that's okay. How did that idea come about, and what was that process like, actually bringing that to film?
Well, we obviously had so much fun making that movie. And I guess how it really came about is, for a long time, I wanted to capture the essence of how success is created in a film. And many of the people that I spoke to about doing this said, it couldn't really be done. No one really wants to watch a documentary about that or a project like that. But then the movie The Secret came along. And so suddenly everyone was like, I guess it is possible. And the cool thing is I actually knew and was friends with most of the speakers in The Secret prior to the film coming out. And so many of them are in our film, The Opus, as you know. And so with The Opus, we decided that, The Secret was the beginning of a conversation. And there was really some amazing things that were shared there. But what next, right? Like, how do you go from a vision of what you want to turning it into a workable plan, and then ultimately performance in your life so that's sustainable and something that you can repeat and that you can do? And so I brought a lot of those people back in, and they shared again their advice on what the next step is. So, we had people like, one of the four founders of FedEx, Frank McGuire. We had Bill Bartman, who was at one time the 25th wealthiest man in the United States. We had people like Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, who created Chicken Soup for the Soul, the best-selling book series of all time, and many others that you would know. And, we just found that as we sort of dug deeper into this, how to create the life that you really want, the outcomes that you really desire, whether it's, again, in abundance and wealth, or whether it's in your family relationships, or even whether it's with your health or what have you, that there were really some consistent ideas around what a person could do. In other words, you have the power. It's within your control to start changing your life. And so that was really the essence of the Opus. And we've been so grateful. The world has received it really with open arms, and Random House was kind enough to do 23 languages worldwide in the book, and it's been wonderful. We've really enjoyed it. You know what's also kind of funny, though, just about the opus, I need to send you a copy. We did 2 other films right after that, one called The Gratitude Experiment, and focus on the power of gratitude, how gratitude can really change anything in our life. And that's a success principle I believe people don't talk about enough. And then the last one we did before this new one we're working on is called The Treasure Map, which talks about how do you create the mindsets of abundance. And I'm not just talking about money, but just abundance in general, to be able to attract and bring into your life the things that will expand you and will make you bigger. So yeah, thank you for noticing the films.
Well, you mentioned Jack Canfield. I was lucky enough to speak on the same stage as Jack Canfield in Toronto last year, and actually meet him and have dinner in the same room. And that was what stood out to me about the film, was the big thought leaders. I almost knew all of them in the film, and I'm a fan of all the people in the film, and they talk so much knowledge and wisdom. And you shared about gratitude, and I am so big on gratitude. I always say, no matter what your present circumstances, there is always something to be grateful of. The air that you breathe, the shirt on your back, your pet dog, the food that you eat, the water that you drink. And the more and more you focus on your gratitudes, more and more things come into your life to be grateful of. And I just love the whole industry, what you're in, Douglas. I would like to ask a little bit about your own personal development journey, because you're in the personal development world. Were the challenges in your past that led you to become more involved in personal development? What was your moment that started you on your journey into transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, what's interesting is I actually wasn't raised with a lot of personal development in my life in terms of the formal sort of personal development. Sure, our family, attended church and these kinds of things, but my parents were engaged in what I call the poverty pattern. In other words, they didn't really know how to create abundance or expansion or success in their lives to the degree that maybe others had. And my parents were very involved in the rat race. So they worked and got a paycheck and they tried to make ends meet. And so as I was raised, I was told that really, if you want to have more, you just need to work harder. And obviously that really isn't the way that a lot of, successful people do it. So when I was in college at about the age of 19, I ran into the book Think and Grow Rich for the very first time. A friend actually gave me 2 books. He gave me Think and Grow Rich and then How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And both of those books really opened my mind to the possibilities of who I could become. And also, maybe most important, the fact that I had a choice in who I wanted to become. I didn't have to just accept what the world would give me as my destiny. And so from that point, I began, like I said, to start interviewing other top achievers, because obviously we become like those that we allow to influence us and those that we surround ourselves. You've obviously heard the saying that says we become like the 5 people we spend the most time with. And so I decided I didn't want to just spend time with 5 achievers or 5 successful people. I wanted to flood my life with people who believed in higher laws of manifestation, people who believed in creating goodness and expanding who they were and seeking for the best, because I'd never really actively sought that out before. And so as I began to go out and interview these people, like I said, I got to some of the world's top achievers, people who were at the top of their game, and you name it, the leaders of companies like FedEx, Nike, Reebok, the Avita Group, Disney, Fruit of the Loom underwear, Christian Dior, Jordache jeans, Gitano sportswear. I mean, the list went on. And then people who'd won Academy Awards or gold medals in the Olympics, or people who had achieved, high degrees of fame in either the NBA, the NHL, or any of the other major sports. So I started really meeting a lot of these people, and it was fascinating because as I started meeting them, kind of what led me into personal development. I had no intention to teach this or become a speaker or, get involved hosting seminars. But I had people very curious about, what did you learn from these top achievers? And so soon I began to share this, and the people that I started to share this with began to get results. And so I began to be invited to come and speak more. And I even had people suggest that I should spend a full weekend seminar teaching these principles in greater depth. And it was interesting, as I had a lawyer one time who attended one of our events, which we call Personal Power Mastery. We can talk more about that later, but this lawyer said something interesting to me. He said, if I were in a court of law and I needed to demonstrate a fact, I would call a witness. And he says, if I had one witness, it would be very strong. I could point out what the truth is. If I had 3 witnesses, it would be even stronger. If I had a dozen, it would be even stronger. And he said, the reason why your program is one of the strongest programs in the world for teaching success is you've got over 400 witnesses that have all demonstrated common attributes and common themes, common concepts, common things that people need to do in order to create success. And no one else in the world has that. And to me, that was very startling. So, for me, my journey into personal development is, as I first became a student, and I still am, so that I could become a teacher. And we need to understand that we need to learn how to learn before we can learn how to lead. And as we begin to, really recognize that, we can also recognize the importance of learning from the right sources. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity I had and still have to actually seek out some of the world's best examples of success. And, that's kind of what led me to where I am today, is to now start teaching that.
I really resonate with what you're saying about poverty belief systems, because I didn't have everything in life when I was younger. I came from quite a tragic past, and the world of personal development really did change my life. And it does take a lot of hard work, Douglas. You do really have to spend time developing yourself, doing the work. But I truly know from my own example that if you do the work, take action, you really work on those belief systems, start making better choices, anything is possible. And you mentioned the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was also a great book in my life. I didn't actually read the book, I must admit. It's quite a big book. I actually got the audible version of it, but that was such a great book to learn all the skills of how to win friends and influence people. So I really connect with everything what you're saying. Now, I want to talk about the new launch of your incredible film, How Thoughts Become Things. How has this film come about, Douglas? I am so excited about it.
Me too. It's actually very exciting. In fact, I think this is going to be our biggest movie yet. What's kind of interesting is, as I saw The Secret, you'll remember that there was a phrase in there that Mike Dooley shared. He said, thoughts become things. And when I saw that in the film, just like everyone else, I was very inspired. But I had a question come into my mind, and that was how, right? Like, how will that come about? And it wasn't too long after that I went and chatted with a friend of mine who was also one of my success interviews. And she's a neuroscientist. And in fact, she also does surgeries on people who have often brain damage and things of that nature. So she's a very knowledgeable person on the workings of the brain and thought and these things. And so I talked to her a little bit about the law of attraction. And she said, well, you know what? It's not really a law. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, it's more of a theory, because a law is something that has quantifiable variables, meaning that you can predict with certainty exactly, put in this many units of that and you'll, get this many units of this. It's an equation that can be predictably brought into anyone's life. And she said, well, the law of attraction, we can't really tell you how many happy thoughts or how often you have to have them, or the variables that are there to be able to create, let's just say, for example, a Ferrari, right? So she said it's not that. And that really intrigued me. And as I've chatted now, and I share the stage regularly with the gang from The Secret, they're all friends of mine. I've had a conversation with them about this, and some of them still do believe, in fact, it is a law, but we don't know all the variables. And so I thought we need to answer some of these questions. If thoughts become things, how does this happen? How can we quantify this? How can we improve our ability to manifest things that we want? How can we avoid the negative thinking? And if we do have a negative thought, does that like kibosh the whole deal? Or like to what extent does this really create, right? And so as I've been now, I guess since 2010, working specifically with the movie, like obviously in 2007, we started thinking about this, but we started really putting pieces together for the movie since 2010. We've come up with some really amazing and interesting things, and some of these things may surprise you. And I want to share maybe just two of them. The first thing is in the title, How Thoughts Become Things, you would immediately think that thoughts and things are the most important words in that sentence, but they're actually the weakest. They're not. Thoughts, we have them all the time. And we can't control them always. The Buddhists call it the monkey mind, right? So our thoughts come flooding in, and some of our thoughts obviously are reactive. Some of them are, passing thoughts with no real purpose. Some of them are responses, again, to our environment. But some of them are active and deliberate and choices that we make. But it's still not the strongest. The next is, of course, that idea of things. Well, the thing that's interesting about this is most people think thoughts become things. Well, I'm going to say that they really don't. Everything that you want already exists in the world. In fact, one of my mentors told it to me once this time. He said, if you want money, the good news is they're always printing some every single day at the mint. And you get to decide how much of it you get. So everything you want is already existing, or even if it's an invention, the idea of it or the energy of it, the inspiration of it also already exists. So what are the two most important words? It's number one, it's how, which is the process. And I think that most people do not understand the process of how to build structure around the thoughts that they want to develop. They don't understand how to build the connection, either if you want to call it a vibrational frequency, or if you want to call it the plan, if you want to call it the blueprint on how to get or arrive to the things that you want. Most people don't understand that how. How will it really arrive? Now, the other word, become, is also important. And I think we often neglect that, because become really speaks to the changes that you will need to make. What will you need to become in order to receive that? In fact, Jim Rohn once said that if you win the lottery, you better learn how to become a millionaire really quick, right? So it's not just a matter of having the thing, it's the who are you? And it kind of comes down to this essence that people have talked about before. They say you've got to be it before you can do it, before you can have it. Right? So this idea of what we become, I think, is one of the most neglected principles of personal development. We often put that to the side, and people say, give me a quick strategy on how I can get, again, the Ferrari or the bank account or the spouse that's ideal or the house or whatever it is. People always just want that quick fix, but they don't understand that things are attracted to who we are, not just the activities that we do. And who we are really, again, is a reflection, again, of those vibrational frequencies that we tune into, the things that we believe possible for ourselves, the feelings of worth that we attain for ourselves, and so forth. Now, let me just put a little caveat. The word become in that phrase, how thoughts become things. I think this is one of the most important words, because become speaks really towards the change of what we'll have to do to become that person to receive these things that want. And I think this is something that a lot of people kind of miss. I think Jim Rohn actually said it really good. He said, if a person wins the lottery, they need to learn how to become a millionaire really quickly. So it's not just a matter of having the thing, it's a matter of being able to maintain and care for the thing, right? So we need to expand who we are before we can expand what we have. And that's a really important principle. And so I think this is one of the things that many people struggle with, because when it comes to this idea of becoming, oftentimes they question their self-worth. They question, again, have I done enough? They question, again, the environment that they're in. They question so many things about themselves personally. And you'll remember the saying that says we need to be it before we can do it, before we can have it. And so I think this idea of becoming is one of the strongest lessons that people are going to find in the film, is that if you really want to have your thoughts become things, we need to change, in essence, kind of who we are and what we allow to influence us in our lives. Our thoughts will rise, again, to the influences that we have in our lives. Very important principle.
I agree with that totally, Douglas, because I'm just thinking back to 2 years ago, some of the things I really wanted in life, and I'm starting to manifest them now. But 2 years ago, I really felt I needed them and wanted them, but now I'm starting to manifest them. Looking back, I wasn't the person. I needed to become that person to manifest those things. And I clearly wasn't ready 2 years ago for the things I was asking for. So I totally relate to everything what you're saying. So your movie, How Thoughts Become Things, you've got some launches going on in different countries. Can you share a little bit about that, Douglas?
Sure. And we've actually got more screenings and launches that are being added daily. It's absolutely wonderful how many people are taking an interest in this film. So at the outset, we've got our very first one will be in London, UK, and that'll be March the 27th. Then we're going to be showing it in Los Angeles on April the 8th. From there, we actually head to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where we're showing on April the 10th. And then we're off to, I want to say, Salt Lake City for around the 15th or so of April. We're also off to Manila in the Philippines to show it, Cebu in the Philippines. They've got dates for Amsterdam already. They've got dates for a variety of cities in the States, so Las Vegas, Chicago, Phoenix. I mean, the list goes on and on. We're going to show it all over, and we do things a little differently. So for those that want to see it, it will be available eventually online as well as a download, where you can either rent it or purchase it, but that will not be immediately. You see, what we want to do is we actually prefer to come out and share it with the public in person at a screening where we can have some of the speakers attending. So some of the speakers in this film, for example, people like Bob Proctor or Joe Vitale or John DeMartini, John Ostroff, Marie Diamond, Dennis Waitley, Bob Doyle, and others who you know from The Secret and other things of that nature, they will actually be at these live events. And so you'll get to come and spend a day with us where we'll teach you in more detail about the film and principles within the film, and then we'll watch the film together. And one of the reasons we've chosen to do that is we want to make sure that people understand the concepts from the film in a strong enough way that they can actually apply them and start getting results. And I think that this is one of the things that we've noticed with all of our films, and people notice it with The Secret too, is that while these are powerful films and wonderful films, they are just the beginning of a conversation. And so I think it's so important to be able to have that conversation to the point where you can start doing, not just learning, but doing, implementation, right? And so we're excited. So please come and join us at one of our events around the world, and definitely come and meet the speakers involved in the film and learn directly from them how you can really capture these principles in your life in real time.
So I would like to ask Douglas, in your own words, why should people attend a screening, and what will they get from the screening, and what will they learn from the film?
Well, I think the biggest thing to kind of understand is that the film has been deliberately and created with calculation to open up possibilities in your life. It's a film where there are very practical strategies of how to turn thoughts into things. And I think that most people, if you look at their lives, they consistently repeat and recreate the same kinds of outcomes again and again and again. And so they're almost in a cycle. Now, I'm not saying that people don't have a degree of success. Of course they do. And they also sometimes have a degree of challenge and adversity. Of course they do. And I'm not suggesting that this film will even heal all the adversity and affliction in your life and the challenges that you'll have. But the one thing that I will tell you is you'll learn how to manifest bigger things, better things in a shorter period of time. You'll see, again, how you can really capture your greatest self and start living your dreams in a way that is predictable and achievable and attainable. And I think that one of the things that I've noticed even preparing this film so far is that a lot of the thoughts that even I had at the beginning on how thoughts really become things and how you can create success were really quite different than what is really required. And I think it's important to understand that the only way that we can gain knowledge or information or ideas, which ultimately become our results, is by learning from someone who has done it, learning from someone who is achieving it. And so if you want to become successful, you've got to always understand that that begins with first becoming a student, becoming a learner. And so the one thing that I can share with you that you are going to gain from this film is from people who have studied these principles for their life and have taught them. One of the things that's interesting is I now look at even my seminar, Personal Power Mastery, and I've taught more than 60 to 70,000 students around the world. And so there's a lot of common things that I've seen that people struggle with, a lot of common things that people make for themselves as excuses or things that hold them back. And because I've seen that so often, I also know how to break past that, to break through that, to help you find your greatest self and open the doors of your possibility in ways that are more effective and long-lasting, ways that will serve you more than anything you've tried before. And you're going to experience some of that in this film. We're just really excited to be able to share this and lift people to the next level in what they're looking to do.
Well, I would love to come along to the screening in London, Douglas, and it's so up my street. I really am excited about this film. Can I ask you, how long does it take to put a film like this together? Because there must be a lot of work that goes into it.
Well, that's definitely true. And this is now my fourth one that I've done. It's interesting that the three that we've done so far have gratefully been accepted into the top 10 personal development movies of all time. And so to get to that kind of a status, to be able to create the content that's going to provide the value for the audiences that will watch it, to be able to find the right speakers, to come up with the right themes, to organize what people say in the interviews that we ask, and to build that into a cohesive film that provides the value, it is a lot of work. And sometimes it can take a lot of time. And I think maybe the thing to kind of recognize is I'm still on a learning curve and finding the best ways to do this. When we did our very first movie, The Opus, I think we did a really good job of that film. I enjoyed making it, but there was a lot that I learned, and there were a lot of mistakes that I made that allowed for the second movie to flow a little smoother. And in that movie, there were mistakes that I made as well that allowed the third one to flow a little smoother. And we're finding, in fact, even with this film, how thoughts become things, that there are things that we're learning. So obviously, I'm excited to possibly make another movie. In fact, I already kind of know a little bit about what I'm going to do next. So I'll save that. I'll reveal that a little later. But each one gets easier and each one gets better because we sort of begin to understand how to assemble these things more. And at the same time, it's not just me. I've got a really good team that I bring in that helps support the films. And so we find people with really exciting skill sets. And then obviously there's developments in technology that allow us to do some amazing things with a film that, back when I did my film, The Opus, in 2008, these things just were not available, but they're available now. And so, to answer your question, it's a lot of work. The time it takes is often unpredictable, but I'm so grateful that I've got really good people around me that know their skill sets, and together we can work and just get better and better with each film that we do. So I'm excited. You guys wait. This is going to be an amazing film. You should see what we've got. I'm excited. Every time I watch it, I get the little hairs on my neck stand up, and there's moments that I feel highly emotional because it's exciting, and you're going to see that this is a very, very powerful film. It will touch you to the core.
And also, Douglas, it must feel quite satisfying knowing that once that film is released, the ripple effect that it has on the amount of people's lives that you can move into a better direction from that film, that must give you a lot of satisfaction.
It does, and it's very exciting. As I travel the world at different events and seminars that we do and things of that nature, it's always a real pleasure when someone comes up and says that I saw your film and it changed my life, and I'm so grateful to be here. In fact, I was at an event a couple of years ago, and I had a gentleman come from Eastern Europe, from a country I've never been to. And he said that he came specifically, this was in London, he came specifically to see me because he had seen one of my films in his home country. And so I get emails regularly from places I've never visited, from people I've never met that we've been able to touch. And for me, that's a real privilege to be part of their lives. I feel very honored that we were able to create something that has been such a blessing to them. And it's exciting. And, I've seen some amazing things. In fact, one of my favorite stories, and I won't get too far into the details, is There's a gentleman that I met in Belgium once, and he told me that he was on the verge of taking his life and was very depressed and very upset, and he didn't have a lot of hope. And, he ran into some of our materials. And because of that, he decided that he could make a difference in his life, that he could regain control, that he did have the power to make changes, and that he actually could make things better. And to have been part of that journey, I think for him, to help him with that in some capacity, I was so excited. It was just amazing. And what made it even better is as he then opened his wallet and showed me a picture of his beautiful family with him and his now wife and a daughter. And it was just priceless to know that I had been a very small part in helping that man rescue his life and to take control. And so what a privilege it is to be part of this, right?
And even if you only change one person's life and save someone's life, Douglas, that in itself is a success in my eyes. Douglas,
me too.
I have so enjoyed having a conversation with you today. I want everyone to go to a screening of How Thoughts Become Things. I'm going to be there. Definitely make sure to see this movie. Before I go, Douglas, how can people get more information about you and your business, and how can people find out more about the film?
Well, let's keep it simple. I'm just going to send you guys to the website for the film, which is www.howthoughtsbecomethings.com. And quite frankly, from the site, you can learn about screenings. You can learn about, some of the opportunities that you have to even be compensated for helping us promote this film. You'll learn about some free tools that we have to help you. And of course, all of the speakers are there. So, you can see who's involved and those speakers that you resonate with, people in the film that you resonate with. You certainly have links there where you can learn more about them and follow their journeys. I know that each one of them, including myself, have a variety of free materials that are out there for you. And so please come and try them out. And, we're so excited to be of service, and we really want to help you succeed. So please take us up on that offer and start, using some of these free tools. And hopefully we see you at an event in the future.
And I would like to add, How Thoughts Become Things has got some of the world's biggest thought leaders in personal development. That alone is a reason to definitely check out this film and go to a screening, or at least make sure you watch this movie. Douglas, thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed interviewing you.
Thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
Thank you. You have been listening to the Brilliance Business Show. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. Conversations with leading experts in business.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.